creates your personal reality, the way that you view life, and your personality is made up of how you think, and how you act, and how you feel. So that if you keep on thinking the same way, and you keep on behaving and acting the same way, keep on feeling the same way, then your life stays the same because you're the same. So the experiment is this. Let me remind myself how I want to think and how I no longer want to think. So I don't default and go unconscious and continue on feeding the life that I don't want. Make sense? Thank you. Let's wake everybody up.
How do we do that?
Is that good? Yeah, it's good. Everybody go, ayo! 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 Everybody go, hey! Hey! Pizza pockets! Pizza pockets! Okay. I've always wanted two things in my life: money and confidence. And in 2016, I quit my job at IBM, an engineering job where I worked all my life to get, because I started making $23,000 a month, $30,000 a month at 23 years old with Airbnb. And I had money, but I had no confidence. And I want to share with you guys how I actually build confidence, because money ain't shit without confidence and the person who you build in the process. So I'm going to share my story and a few lessons you guys can take away and learn them a little sooner. So this is where it all started. I grew up in the Middle East, in Kuwait. There's a country right next to like Saudi Arabia, Dubai. If you look on Google Maps, it's like an eagle's head. So I grew up there and I was bullied all my life. I was called names. I was beat up every single day throughout the whole of high school. And because of that, it led me to be super insecure, very socially awkward. I never had no sense of belonging to anybody. I didn't have an older brother. I didn't have an older cousin. I was the first grandchild. Right now we have over 150 cousins, God bless. So I had nobody to look up to. And I was ashamed to go home and tell my mom and my dad that I was getting beat up. So I just sucked it up. And then one day in grade 10, I'll never forget this. Recess was over. It was math class. I'd walk into class. There was a lot of chatter. Everybody was settling down. And then I go to my desk, and this same bully stopped me. He was like, "Where do you think you're going?" And he started slapping. He was like, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And I felt the years of pent-up frustration in my body, and my heart was beating out of my chest. And I said, fuck it. I grabbed the bully, slammed the motherfucker on the floor. And I did it in front of the whole class. The teacher and I got suspended. It was one of the best days of my life. It's the first time I stood up for myself. And then shortly after, I actually started an organization against bullying, AKA I started a gang. And we started fighting the bullies. And a few months after that, the bullying stopped in my school. But I had a lot of friends and younger cousins who were getting bullied in other schools. And so I wasn't going to stand for that. And so what we did was I gathered about 100, 150 people, and we would have fights versus other schools. Now, you think in grade 10, grade 11, we're probably taking public transport or the bus to get there, but I was in a private British school, and everybody was rich. And so everybody had a driver, and we would go show up with black Cadillacs, Tahoes, GMC on some mafia shit. And we would show up 150 people, and then there would be 20, 30 other school, and their big head would come, and our leader would come, they would meet. We'd be ready to fight or not to fight. But thankfully, we never actually fought. We actually made friends, and we had a bigger gang. Anyways, that life was over. I graduated high school in Kuwait, and my parents sent me to Canada to get an engineering degree, because that's what they thought was best for me. So I flew to Canada. Very little English, but it's okay. We made it happen. I graduated with a Bachelor of Network Engineering, and my dad was an engineer, so I just followed into his footsteps. And I got my first big boy job at IBM as an engineer. And on paper, it seemed like I had it all. Stable income, respectable job, and proud parents. Have you ever guys felt like you're like living a life that wasn't meant for you?
Yes.
Yeah, like no matter how hard you try, you can't shake the feeling that there's something more out there for you. Anybody? That was me. Every single day at IBM. Like I hated how structured it was. How like I had to wait 10 years to become a VP or some shit. And my manager on the left of me was there like 10 years longer than I was. And she made like 40 grand more than me a year. And I was tired of her complaining about her $3,000 door that she wanted to replace for an entire year. I was tired of sitting under the fluorescent buzzing lamps, looking at the clock, waiting for it to hit 5 o'clock so I can escape. And I'm glad I went through that because it like, affirmed that I'll never have freedom. I'll never be rich. I'll never be able to retire my mom and get the things that I actually want. So like anybody would, I started looking for a way out. And now I had no business acumen. I had no real skills other than a bit of coding. So I looked at the lowest hanging fruit for me. I'm like, what's the easiest thing I could do to make money? And it was Airbnb. Everybody familiar with Airbnb, right? Right, so I had my own condo, so I took a few pictures. I put on Airbnb. Overnight, some guy from Sweden, for some reason, wanted to come to Ottawa, 4 hours away from here, for 3 weeks. He booked my place for 3 weeks. Paid me $3 grand. That's double my rent. And I was like, okay, like this is my first taste of freedom. Shortly after that, I scaled to 9 Airbnbs. I owned none of them, I just rented them. And I started making 30 grand a month at 23. So I quit my job at IBM. And I'll give you guys a little analogy. If you've never went to the gym and you started to bench 250 pounds or 300 pounds, you will hurt yourself. Similarly, if you're 23 years old and you've never made 30 grand in a month in your life, you will hurt yourself. Now remember, I had money, I had no confidence. So I craved like people's affection. I wanted people to like me. I wanted that sense of belonging. And the way that I would do it is I would buy it. So for 3 years, I would buy materialistic things. I bought a brand new Mustang GT. I put a loud exhaust on. I bought nice things, watch. I would go out every weekend, go to nightclubs. I'd pay thousands of dollars on bottles so I can get girls, get people to like me and respect me. And through those 3 years, I got 911 called on me 3 times because of the drugs and alcohol I was taking. My friends thought I was gonna die. And the last time I went to the hospital, I was sitting down on the hospital bed. I woke up under another set of fluorescent lights. And I woke up to a doctor sitting right in front of me with his wooden clipboard. He looked at me, he's like, you know, this is the 3rd time you're here for the same reason. Like, yeah? He looked at me, it's a long pause. He's like, what kind of man do you want to be when you're 30 years old? Man, I didn't know what to say. I never really thought about that. That was a heavy moment for me. And that was the moment I realized that the reason why I wasn't living the life that I wanted to live was because I kept on feeding the life that I didn't want. I'll say it again. The reason why I wasn't living the life that I wanted to live was because I, day by day, was feeding the life that I didn't want to live. You know what they say, when it rains, it pours. That's when I started getting kicked out of all my Airbnbs because the landlords were getting smarter. They're like, okay, he's making this much money. I can do the same thing. And so I was left to like 1 or 2 Airbnbs and I quit. I just quit. I'm like, fuck it. Next business venture. And then I looked at e-commerce. I looked at Amazon FBA. I'm like, okay, this is it. Everybody and their grandmother is doing e-commerce and drop shipping. It seems easy. Let's do it. I do some product research, and then I find a winning product. It was a silicone boob lift for women. All right, interesting product. I ordered 1,000 of them. 2 months go by. I sell out. And I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And then the 3rd month, I get a death threat from my competitors saying, if you don't stop selling, we will kill you. And this was a mail to my condo. I didn't give a fuck. I continued on selling. I'm like, I'm not about to be bullied again. And then somehow, I woke up one morning and Amazon shut me down for an investigation for 3 months. Till this day, I don't know what happened. But I'm like, okay, fuck it. Next business venture. And at this point, like, everybody's looking at me. My mom, my dad, my brothers, my friends, my cousins, they're like, what are you doing? Like, business is not for you. Go back to IBM. You're wasting your time. And I thought to myself, like, I would rather be broke, busted, disgusted, rather than go back, sit next to my manager and hear her complain about a $3,000 door. And this is where I'm like, I knew exactly what I was gonna do next. Because remember, I was like terrified talking to people. I was still super insecure, very socially awkward. So this is where I'm like, I'm gonna do sales. Because if I learn sales, it's not only the highest paid profession, but I will finally get my way with life. Like, I always envied salespeople. They know how to convince people. You know, they had the gift of the gab. They get what they want. They get women. They get everything, and I wanted that. So like, this is exactly what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna go all in. I'm gonna do so much work that would have been impossible for me to fail. But at this time, I'm gonna get a mentor. And that's exactly what I did. And the beauty with nowadays is that we have all, most the smartest people, most successful people on Instagram. And so I found somebody with money and confidence. He had this crazy energy, crazy charisma. He had a Lambo, and he was a sales leader. Like, sign me up. He wanted a couple of grand. I hesitated a bit, but then my friend told me, like, yo, you just spent a few $1,000s on a couple of weekends ago on nothing. So I'm like, fuck it, you're right, let's do it. So I get trained, similar to you guys. I started learning a 10-step framework, buyer psychology, all the high-level sales training stuff. And then 2 months in, it was ready for me to sell. Now, with that mentor, he had nothing to really like sell. He didn't have his own product, so we had to buy our own leads. And so he told me to go and find personal trainers who didn't have an online presence and to give them a call and then set up a call for him so he can close them, because my mentor had a huge social presence. So that's what I did. I went to scopeleads.com. Should have called it colder than maxesheart.com, but I downloaded the list. I started calling personal trainers. Now, I was in my robe. I remember the first time calling my first prospect. I dialed the number, and I was praying they don't answer. And I was already sweating, and I was praying they don't answer. The first guy answered me, like, hello, hello. I couldn't say anything. I was at a chokehold. I hung up. And I did that a couple of times. I gave up. Next day, showed up again. I'm like, hey, this is Rome. I noticed that, and they hang up. But I keep on showing up. And I'm looking at the back wall. I have 2 degrees. I have a degree of engineering and I have a diploma. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I made $30,000 a month before with Airbnb. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? But then I reminded myself why I'm doing this. And I'm like, this is part of the journey. This is part of the process. I need to take care of this. And at one point, I'm like, okay, let me try to be somebody else. So remember, guys, I was in a British school. So I put on the accent so I could be somebody else. I'm like, hello, this is Rome here. Are you a personal trainer? I noticed you had your XYZ. And the guy gave me a little bit of confidence, some confidence. Anyways, I continued busting my ass every day, learning from every failure. I embraced the failure. 2 months later, I get a call from this young, handsome multimillionaire. He's somewhere here in the room. And he was like, hey, my business partner told me that you've been busting your ass off. You've been setting up calls. You've been closing some deals. I want you to sell with me. I'm like, okay, who are we selling for? He's like, Tai Lopez. I'm like, Tai Lopez? I'm like, the knowledge guy? Like the here in my garage guy? He's like, yeah, that's who. I'm like, okay, I'm down. It's like, do you know the 10-step framework? I'm like, yes. Do you know this? I'm like, yeah. Okay, you're starting tomorrow. And the first day, I actually got leads this time. The first lead I closed was for $997. First lead I closed for $997. I made $100. That same day, I closed 3 or 4 more deals, $997 deals. I made $500. That month, I made $5 grand. Second month, I came to this very office. I was in Ottawa. It was like a 5-hour drive from here. I would drive for 10 hours just so I can see Dylan, so he can listen to my calls for 30 minutes and give me feedback. And because of that, I made 16 grand that month. Third month, I made over 20 grand. One thing led to another. I started stepping into leadership role after leadership role. I started managing teams under me, making commissions off of other salespeople. I brought in millions of dollars for one of the top coaches of the world. I made hundreds of thousands of dollars. And through this experience, I met my mentor, Dylan, who changed my life. I met some of my best friends. I went through the most beautiful self-development journey in my life, in all aspects of my life. I overcame social anxiety, I built confidence, and most importantly, I had an impact on thousands of people's lives. And I want you guys to take away two things from my story. And number one is that I had to brainwash myself to become successful. Now, what do I mean by that? So the reason why I wasn't living the life that I wanted was because I kept on feeding the life that I didn't want to have, right? So I needed to change that. I kept on feeding it with the old habits, with the old way of thinking, with the old way of behaving. Is the board here? No, try blue. And so I came across this concept. And that changed my life. You guys can't see this, eh? Think. That's okay. Yeah. Let's write this down. Behave, feeling. All right, think, behavior, and feeling. I came across this concept that changed my life. And the concept is this. It's an experiment. It's like life is an experiment. And the concept is this. It says, if your personality creates your personal reality, the way that you view life, and your personality is made up of how you think, and how you act, and how you feel, so that if you keep on thinking the same way, and you keep on behaving and acting the same way, keep on feeling the same way, then your life stays the same because you're the same. So the experiment is this. Let me begin to remind myself how I want to think. Let me begin to think a little bit differently, right? Let me remind myself how I want to think and how I no longer want to think. So I don't default and go unconscious and continue on feeding the life that I don't want. Make sense? And so let me begin to think a little bit differently. Let me begin to behave differently so that I can get my behavior to match my intention, right? Let me begin to feel a little bit different. And if you're able to succeed in that day to do this, then you should see some sort of change, right? And if not, it doesn't mean that the concept or the law doesn't work for you. It just means that you're not good at it yet. You need to keep on practicing it, right? And so for this to really work for you, like you need to first understand what are your goals. For this concept to work, you need to understand what are your goals. We all have goals, but do you really like deeply understand your goals? Do you really understand like who is it that you're trying to be so that you can become that person, right? And so I'm gonna share with you guys how I did it. There's many ways to do this. So I'm gonna share with you guys what I did and what worked for me. And what I would do is this. Every single morning, I would wake up and write down my goals. Right? It's very simple, but powerful. I would wake up every morning and write down my goals. And then I took it a notch higher, and I started visualizing my goals, writing my goals down, and then visualizing myself actually achieving these goals. And then I took it a little higher. I started meditating every morning for 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And I would not only write down my goals, like, okay, I'll give you guys an example. I want to make $20,000 a month. I want to work with cool people. I want to work from anywhere around the world. And then I would write down how would I actually feel, right? I'd feel confident, I'd feel relief, I'd feel joy, I'd feel love for life. And then I would meditate and literally just visualize myself taking all the actions I need to actually get there. What would it be like to be that person? And so that's, what I'm explaining here is the act of disconnecting from your life long enough to remind yourself of who you want to be and who you don't want to be. Right? So you can become familiar. And meditation is just a fancy word, by the way, to say become familiar with. Right? So I'm trying to become familiar with the person I want to be so I can step into them. And It's like similar to the gym guys. Like you go to the gym first day, you're not gonna see any changes. Second day, you're not gonna see anything. A week, maybe. Similar to the meditation. But once you do it, maybe a week, 2 weeks in, you'll notice you start thinking different, you start acting different, you start behaving different, you start feeling different. All of a sudden, like you're attracting new opportunities. You're making better decisions. You're achieving your goals. Your life is changing. And that's really important. Really, like my whole point is like, without that end goal, then there's no point fighting. It's so easy, like Dylan said, to look at the grass that it's greener on the other side. We don't have anything. You're not fighting for anything. When in reality, the grass is greener where you water it. And that's what allowed me to embrace all my failures, which brings me to my second lesson. Embracing failure, right? I'm very grateful for all the failures that I had in my life. And the reason why Airbnb didn't work out for me wasn't because my landlord was kicking me out. It was because I failed, because I quit. I failed on my goals. The reason why Amazon didn't work for me, e-commerce didn't work for me, it wasn't because of I got shut down. I gave up. Could have made another account. And when I was sitting there with my robe, sweating balls, calling this prospect, it took everything in me like not to continue and give up. But I reminded myself that I'm in journey mode. And most of you guys are in journey mode right now. Like 90% of the time, whenever you set your goals, you're in journey mode. Meaning you're focused on the processes and the actions that you need to take you to your goals. Right? Most people always look at the top of the mountain. But you need to take care of every single step on the way to become worthy of that goal. I'll give you guys some examples too. Like whenever you guys join, like most people join our program, they take a long time to submit the role play because they're not okay with sucking. They're not okay with falling in the face and looking stupid. And that's what's holding them back from being great. So embrace failure, guys. It's part of the process. And whenever, I'll leave you guys with this too, like some tactical shit. Me and Aman and Misha do this all the time. We have a sheet, we have our own sheet where we have all our calls that we close and we didn't close. And so whenever you have a closed call, we put in our sheet and why we closed it. When you don't close the call, write it down and why you didn't close it. So now you have all this bank of clues, because success leaves clues as well. Don't just look at your failures, but look at your successes too. Whenever you guys are gonna go through lows, 100%. And that's a cheat code for you to go back and look at, okay, what did I do here? Oh, my energy was good. I cracked a joke here. That's gonna help you bounce back. And where's Misha? Not here? Okay. Yo, Aman, what do we say when some bullshit happens, bro? Charge it to the fucking game, because it's gonna pay you back, guys. And that's all. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. What's up, bro?
Why did, you said that you made 23K at 23?
30K at 23.
Sorry, 30K at 23, but you said that you still did not have confidence.
Yeah.
Why?
It was just money, bro. I didn't have the rights.
All that, because most people will never make that amount of money in a month in their whole life.
Right.
And you did it so young.
Yeah.
So like, most people think money would bring you confidence. So for you, why did it not bring you the confidence that you have now?
That's a good question, bro. Because I didn't understand, because I was terrified of talking to people. I was very socially awkward. And the only way I knew how to fix that is by buying people's affection. I didn't have the right personality. I didn't know how to actually make people like me. I didn't understand people. I didn't understand communication skills. I didn't know how to get my way with people. So sales helped me like talk to people. Sales gave me the confidence to talk to people and break out of my shell. That was my biggest problem. Bro, it was really bad. Like I would even avoid, whenever I get the elevator, if there's people inside, I wouldn't go inside. Because it was too close for me. So sales helped me get over that fear by calling people who didn't even want to fucking talk to me, right? Exposing myself to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So essentially, it sounds like you had to work on your insecurities that money couldn't fix.
Exactly. You find a lot of rich people, bro. Like you guys like find a lot of rich people, but I don't even want to. If you have money but you have no substance, you have no personality, not a good person, bro. I don't even want to fuck with you. You know what I mean? If you're like also insecure, like to yourself, like same thing, right? Why would anybody want to be friends with me? I'm not a high value man. I don't have real skills, right? Good question, bro.
I got one question. Like, what do you do like when you do like find yourself like losing motivation? Has there been a time in your life where like you just kind of lose like motivation?
It's just like, how bad do you want it, bro? Like, how bad do you want your goals? Like, I don't really rely on motivation. Motivation will last 24 hours, 48 hours. It's discipline, bro. Like Mike Tyson said it best, you gotta do the things that you don't wanna do, but you gotta do them and act like you love it. You know, I don't really rely on motivation. I think that's bullshit.
How did you really get into, like, using your mind, like, as in, like, thinking and visualizing? How'd you get into that?
This? Bro, I was on YouTube, man. How to become rich, how to become successful, how to become confident. I came across this work is actually Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, if you're interested.
I know someone like Bob Proctor or something.
Right.
Like that, so, you said, who was that?
Dr. Joe Dispenza. Yeah, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He talks a lot about quantum physics and how you can basically attract things to come to you. Okay. Instead of you going and trying to get it, it come to you. Okay. What's up?
Yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge you, and your story is really inspirational. And yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask you whether you're familiar to Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and because obviously his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself,
yeah,
he talks all about this.
Yeah, most definitely.
To any of his events?
100%. No, I haven't. I'm always trying to get there. I always get an email whenever he has like this retreat. Within 5 minutes, already booked out. It's wild, but I definitely. Really? Wow. That's amazing. Life-changing.
Yeah, amazing.
It's amazing. Hey, what's up?
Right.
Wayne.
Question for you. Did you feel at that time when you was at IBM, as an example, that you was living a lie, as in the life that you were living? The reason I asked that is because I thought I had everything. I lived in Thailand for 8 years.
Right.
And I lost everything. And I'm starting again. That's the whole reason I'm here. But what's more important is I understand why I'm here. This was never about the money to start off with for me.
Right.
And what I've realised more than anything is everything I thought I knew at the age that I am, I know fuck all.
Right.
So any ladies, excuse my French, because the reality is I've learned more here in the 8-9 months that I've been doing this than anything else, even like in marketing and experience stuff like that. But what I wanted to know is, from your IBM experience, even though you had the money, you had the lifestyle, whatever, you didn't have the confidence. But was that like the main reason? Do you feel like that you just you wasn't content with what you wanted to do in your life?
100%. Yeah, like I wanted freedom, man. There was no real freedom. Like Dylan said too, like even if I save money, I'm still not gonna be able to get what I want. I wanted true freedom. I wanted to work anywhere around the world. I want to retire my mom. I want to buy a house. You know, I want to be in control of my income. I don't want to wait till I'm like 45 so that I can make 150 grand. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's, yeah, I've always knew I didn't want a 9 to 5, but like I just followed to my parents' footsteps and kind of just like affirmed, okay, I did the 9 to 5. It's clear as fucking day that there's no way I'm gonna get whatever I want in my life. You know?
So I couldn't go back.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Good. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it.
Off you?